Hey everyone, welcome back once again to Vicious Chats. I am Tim Vicious. With me today, he is a multi-time podcaster. He's a good brother. I've known this dude for many, many years. He was the one man with no Instagram up until recently. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Kenny Killer Dude. How are you, man? How you doing?
I'm good. It's your boy Kinny Killer all the way from across the pond. It's good to be on the show with you. Yeah, I mean, we go way back, don't we, man? We go way.
Yeah. I think back in like, what was it, 13 or 14?
Yeah,
Because it was Danny Sunday that introduced me to you guys, introduced me to you originally.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it seems like an age ago now, but
That's
yeah,
a lifetime ago.
yeah.
So, first things first, I got to ask you, man, what made you change your gimmick and go and break down and get an Instagram?
Well, to be honest, I think a lot of people had been saying to me, "Oh, where have you been? You know, you feel like you've disappeared." You know what I mean? My I suppose my relationship with socials at the moment is not the greatest, just because I'm starting to feel like certain things on socials are like set up. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't feel authentic, and I struggle with it
Yeah.
knowing what's real and what's fake and things like that. So I just kind of decided to stay away. But the more and more that happened, the more and more people were saying, okay, like how yeah, you're all right, like you seem like you've kind of disappeared. So and I realized socials, especially Instagram, sometimes people just want to know you're all right through images. So that's why I decided to go from the one man with no Instagram to one man with half an Instagram, and now I've jumped in 2 feet, man.
There you go. I mean, honestly, I made one because I had one before back in the day, before I met up with you, and I had it. I got rid of it because I wasn't using it, and then once I started growing out the beard, my brother was like, "Oh, you should see my barber. You should see my barber. He handles beard cuts." And it's like, "Okay, what's his number?" Well, he only makes appointments through Instagram. Do I really need it? You already got a Facebook. Just make one. You already got an Instagram if you got a Facebook. All right, then fine. So yeah,
Yeah, you mentioned your beard game. I'm trying. So this year, I decided I'm not cutting my beard at all. Right. So I'm trying. I'm at the. It's because I'm wearing a dark top, but I'm at some kind of length at the moment. So it's May now. So yeah. Hopefully, let's see how far it gets by the end of the year.
yeah, I'm seeing that, man. I'm digging the beard game you got going here. Last I measured, mine's is just right at my sternum, like right
Wow.
there. Oh, you can't see it because of the camera, but right there when I go to
Wow.
measure it. It's so yeah. So this is like a good 7, 8-ish years worth of work.
Jeez, man. That's like too legit to quit, man. Gone all in.
Yeah. So, you know, also, so what made you when you first started doing podcasting? Because I met up with you, like we were saying, you were doing a show, the Sunday Seg. It was a wrestling show. And I'm just wondering because when you first started, it was at that point in time where, only like pro pro reporters or athletes were really doing the podcast game. It wasn't like it is now where anyone can really.
Yeah, yeah. I think so. For me, the reason why I started it is we used to, me and my boy Shugs, we used to listen to some podcasts. We used to listen to it was Arda Ocal and Renee Paquette when they were on with the score. So we used to listen to that. John Pollock and Wei Ting, they were on Aftermath. So we used to listen to Aftermath quite a lot. And then things changed at Aftermath and they moved on and we carried on listening to John Pollock and Wei Ting over at Post Wrestling. And we just continued to listen and we decided, you know what? I think we could do something here. I think we could, just two guys just talking about, wrestling. Let's just do it. So we decided we're going to do it. We got all of our stuff together and just started. I remember at the the first time we started, the very first episode, X Pac just he just I think he cut his asshole in two or something through
Oh,
wrestling a show, an indie show. And the first title was X Pac cuts his asshole.
you see, now I got to go and try and see if I can find the old seg tapes and look that up.
The link, I'll take you the link. But yeah, and we just decided to kind of start there. And then we, thought, okay, we're going to add another guy in. So at the time, it was E2J, so Ed, who can only do bits and pieces. And then we thought, okay, once we do this, like, how are we going to be sustainable? How are we going to keep going? You know what I mean? And it wasn't just about, okay, we're just going to click record and just talk about wrestling. There had to be other bits to get people to be engaged. Started researching other podcasts and saw that there were segments and little fun bits. And then that's how we added in, the rant music from, the little snippet that they have in Kill Bill. We used that as a rant music, and I used to go off on a rant. Then we added things like Shug Stunners, where Shugs would just go off and just just read someone, basically cutting someone down about how shit they've been or whatever. And then decided to have guests. And I thought, what better way to have, kind of expand by having guests. And sometimes Shugs couldn't come as well. So it just meant that, okay, we could have a guest host as well. And then I started reaching out to researching Twitter and looking at other people who were interested in wrestling, and thought, oh, this would be a wicked chance to give other people a platform to talk about wrestling. And that's how I saw your page, the Vicious Ranter, and just thought, yeah, let me get in touch with you.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, how is Shug doing? I haven't heard from him in dog's age.
He's all right, man. He's doing good. Still a grumpy bastard, but he's all good, man. He's all good. He's moment where we're throwing shots at TK, Tony Khan, but apart from that, he's all.
In all fairness, a lot of those shots TK sets himself up for, but not going to get into that at this point in time. So yeah, I'm glad to hear on that, man. I really am. So I know like we said, I came on Danny Sunday. He was a mutual friend of ours. He introduced me to you because it was, hey, check out my buddy. And then we started talking, and we clicked right away. It was like, yeah, this is awesome. We got this. And probably one of the funnier things that you would do is you would always bring up the meme of the week. And that was when meme culture was just taking off. And it was a little after it popped up on my Facebook memories a few days ago. You remember when Braun Strowman was doing that "I'm not finished with you" run?
Yeah.
And because I was right at the time when the guy who was doing that meat slap thing was going, and it was just a picture of Braun dropping like a fire truck and this and that all on top of Roman Reigns.
Yeah, right.
Dude, that's why I said pro wrestling is wild, because it is the only sport I could see where somebody will literally deadlift a semi on top of someone. I still can't even say that with a straight face.
No, it's just wrestling for you, innit? Like it's a whole lot of fantasy, and just a whole lot of madness, man. And that's why we love it as kids, and we love it still now.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? A few weeks ago here in Erie, I took my one nephew to the WWE show that came here, and he had a look on his face like he almost had a heart attack because Rey Mysterio was in a match and he wasn't announced. He was like, "Oh my God, it's Rey. I grew up seeing him." Like, dude, I grew up seeing him in ECW. Okay, so trust me, I get it.
Mate, you look like a kid in a candy store when I saw your pictures, man.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah, dude, it was nuts. I mean, I went a little out of the way because initially I was going to take my son, but he then was like, "No, I'm going to be with mom that weekend, and I just kind of want to hang out with her." Well, okay, I'm not going to argue on that, bud. You do what you want to do. So I was like, called my nephew. Was like, "Hey, bud, you want to go to the show with me? What day is it? Such and such day." "Yeah, cool." And then we just went. Actually, and it was funny because we got to the arena an hour early because I got the VIP tickets, and we got there an hour early and was like, "Oh, well, there's a Subway up the block. Let's go get something to eat." As we're walking up there, we saw Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate just walking around, and I was like, "Yo, bud, that was two of the guys that are going to be on here tonight. Wait, what? Really? Yeah. It's like, whoa. Like, oh yeah, it's cool.
It's amazing, isn't it? Like how
Yeah.
you go to those shows, the house shows, how loose it can be. You can just see the wrestlers just walking around there, and it's just you can just meet them, chat to them, and I mean, what was your experience like? Like engaging with them? Because a lot of my experiences have been cool. Like there's just been like bless.
Well, I didn't say nothing to them because I just figured, they're on the street. They're probably just going to get like a cup of coffee or a sandwich or something. And I didn't want to be like, oh my God, like
Yeah, yeah.
that. I always try and give that kind of decent respect, but internally, I'll go and be like, get all fanboy, like, ee. But on the outside, I'm like, nah, it's cool. Yeah, whatever. So, aside from the SEG, you also did another show at one time called the Dadcast. And me, Danny, and Ollie, we tried doing our own show at one point where we kind of had yours be our template, where it's three dads, all different upbringings, different mindsets, and we all just kind of wanted to go and sit there and be like, so how you doing? How are you doing with your kid? And this, and this. But unfortunately, plans as they are come arise and our schedules could never really sync up. But what gave you the idea to go and do the Dadcast for those that may not know it?
So with that cast with the Mandem, it was me and my boy Jace and my boy Joe, who I've known since we were kids, and again, all three of us different circumstances. I'm married with two kids. Jace is married with two kids, two girls, and Joe has got he's got kids in different from different mums, and but he's also taken on kids through a different relationship. Kids aren't here biologically his, but he says that he's their dad because he was there when they were little. So it was just all kind of different circumstances, and we thought that it would be ideal to kind of address the stigma that dads don't talk to other dads about their kids. So that's how we kind of drafted the idea of doing that. And then we, over a number of weeks, started to kind of plan what we wanted to do. And it was just, let's have a YouTube show. And then alongside that, we also got a slot on local radio. So we was on local radio as well. It just kind of picked up from there. And then we got local backing and sponsorship from an accountant who is like a family accountant who, we know the owner, who happens to run a children's scrap store as well. And it just like kind of worked, and so they funded us to run it. And that's how we managed to start, Dadcast with the Mandem.
That's awesome, man. You see, I didn't even know you had a local radio spot there. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely all for that with that breaking that stereotype and that stigma because, my son, he's 14 going on 15, and this past year has been a big year for him for school year wise because not only is he excited, he's starting high school next year, and that's all he's been going on about. This is also the first year he actually was not in any kind of autistic support classes. So he was just like, dude, this stuff is easy on me. I can do this now. This was no problem. And, it's like it's like just because you got a kid with special needs, you don't need to go and you don't need to sugarcoat things with them.
Yeah.
Like I'm autistic myself. And I always tell, because when I finally explained it to him, he was like, well, what does it mean? Well, buddy, it means we're wired different. Our brains are wired different. We don't think just like everyone else. We see and perceive things way different. Just because we're different, don't make us any less special. If anything, that makes us more unique because we're seeing things nobody else is ever gonna.
Yeah, it's interesting because my son's just started secondary school, and so he's 12. And again, it's an important year for him, kind of the transition from primary school to secondary school. and the difference of being in year 6, which is like the higher end of primary school, and then going into year 7, which is the lower end. So now you're going from one, height to a bit of a low, being the lowest in the school. And navigating having to be in a school with loads of different older kids and things like that, and and he's adapted very, very well. He's adapted very well, and I'm very proud of how he's conducted himself. Now, I'm not going to be fickle and think that things won't change in terms of attitude and things like you probably know. Your son's 14 now, so he's probably gone through that transition of growing.
There are days I constantly keep muttering to myself, I can't believe I gave my parents this much hell.
Mate, I go through days when I'm looking at my son and I know he's going to be taller than me, and I'm thinking, yo, I'm gonna have to learn how to do like some MMA or some Brazilian jiu-jitsu or something to take this guy out when the time comes, because he's gonna be he's gonna be taller than me, and he might try it, you know what I mean? And I need to be making sure I'm ready to choke this guy out.
I'm 6'2". I'm 6'2". My son, like I said, he's 14. He'll be 15 in September, and he's already about maybe a hair or so shorter than me. So I look at him all the time and say, just in a couple, maybe within a year or so, I'm going to have to ask you to sit down so that way we could see eye to eye.
Oh yeah,
because he'll try and look at me and say, Dad, I'm already taller than you now. That's only because I'm slouching because my back hurts.
Yeah. Oh good. Yeah, I don't know if you know what I do for work, but it's funny that you mentioned being autistic, your son being autistic. So I actually work for a disability organization.
All right.
Yeah. So I've been working there for 8 years. So I created a business support service as part of this. So it's a social enterprise charity, and my arm is the business support arm. So I manage a number of services that supports businesses to be able to support any disabled people they engage with. So that's staff, customers, students. When you mention that, it just kind of reminds me of obviously what I do every day, trying to engage with businesses and schools and things like that, to making sure that they're supporting, their students or staff who are neurodiverse or have an impairment or a long-term health condition, to make sure that, they reach, their full potential. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Dude, I'm glad to hear that. If you got any links or anything on that, make sure to send it to me after the show. I'll make sure to plug them in the description tabs. Anything you ever want to put out there, you let me know. I'll put it on here for you. That's big kind of work I'm always adamant on.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, explain to him that, we're different. Our brains are wired different. We see things, we perceive things different. That's why we are the way we are. But that doesn't mean we're anything different we're different than everyone else, but we're in a good kind of way. Everyone else is busy looking at the box. We're sitting there like, why are you looking at it? Kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Camera issues?
Yeah.
For those who are just listening to the audio right now, Kenny's camera keeps getting food barred.
There we go.
It's almost like back when I was doing the seg with you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those that don't know that story, before I had this nice high-end setup I got now, I would just come on the show using my phone. And I had a POS phone at that time. And if you used it, and if I was using it for more than 40 minutes, it would start to overheat. So I would constantly have to keep an ice pack on it, to the point the ice pack would melt. And one or two times, we went over past when the ice pack would melt and the phone would overheat and then shut down completely for like a good half hour. And then I'd have to find a way to get back in touch, be like, I'm sorry, man, I'm sorry. Wanted to ask you also, I know we touched on it vaguely through messages before the show with some cultural differences. Obviously, you're all the way across the pond in the UK. I'm here in the US. Now, I don't know if you listened to the first episode, but Bingus, he was the first guest I had on. he talked a little bit about the differences with as far as TV viewing, like with Sky and all. But
Mhm.
like, but like some of the other big cultural differences, obviously your steering wheels are on the left side. You know, you guys don't, you know, we use feet and inches, you guys don't. And as far and currency and all, but like what are other some of the big cultural differences you think that are like some kind of way you just say, can we just forget about that and agree it's this instead of that kind of deal?
I was there. There's many differences, and the differences I actually find quite fun. And I tend to watch a lot of like reaction videos of Americans learning about about Brits and our culture. I suppose health is one. In terms of our health care system, we have the NHS, so we when we're working, we pay tax. Tax comes out of our salary, and all of our tax goes into paying for things like the police, the NHS, the fire service. It goes into all of that. Even the royal family, like it's tax money basically, and that allows us to have free healthcare. So if anything happens, I can just call 999 and they'll come and, sort me out or take me to hospital or whatever. Or if, for instance, I have, like, if I feel sick, I just go to the doctors, no problem, just ring up, make an appointment. They'll arrange for me to go and, just have a consultation with the doctor. They'll give you whatever you need, which is prescribed to you. You go to the pharmacy, you get it, and done. You know what I mean? And it's pretty much that simple. So I understand that in America it's very, very different. Like obviously within your jobs, I think you guys have to, in certain jobs they pay you health, you get health insurance. So it means that you
Yeah.
for your bills,
Well,
but you pay for everything
well,
for that.
Lee, well, I'm not sure. I got to talk with my producer Wade to see if I can legally name names on where I work, but for right now I won't. But let's just say where I work, they're unique and they'll say no, day one is when your health care starts, and it's optional if you want to enroll in it. Me, unfortunately though, given the amount of hours I get, I can't really afford to. So I'm on state funded. I get me and my son, we got state funded. We're on Medicaid. So we got that, but he's got phenomenal coverage. Like he had to get glasses recently and it covered everything. The only thing was that was out of pocket was he asked if he could get transitions where the regular lenses turn into suns when they're outside in the lights. Do
Mm.
you guys got those over there?
Sorry, say that again. You just broke up.
Do you guys got transition lenses over there? It's when the regular lenses on your eyeglasses turn into suns when they're outside in the UV light.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I didn't asking because out of ignorance of not having lack of knowledge, I didn't know if that was just like a US thing or what. So, all right, but yeah, he asked if he could do that because he's very active and he does a whole hell of a lot of basketball when he's outside. If it's warm out and he's got the chance, he's like, can I go in the yard and just shoot some hoops? All right, go ahead. That's yeah. So other thing I wanted to run by you, man. I gotta tell you, I catch you obviously wrestling, that's our connection. But
Mhm.
man, I gotta tell you, first things first, the UK crowds are hands down some of my absolute favorite crowds to see because you guys make the shows as enjoyable as seeing the in-ring work, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to picture it like this for us, right? It's like imagine you're a child and you get fed like 4 times a year. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
yeah, so then when you get that food, you're like,
it's
oh,
like, yeah,
intense. You know what I mean? And that's what fandom in the UK is like with wrestling. It's like it's you crave it. You know what I mean? Now, for the longest time, especially growing up, you might have talked about this on previous shows, especially with Bingers, but you know, there was only certain times we could, you know, see TV or see WWE. Like obviously, so for me, I grew up in you know, kind of household. You know, not a rich household, so we didn't have cable. So Sky, we didn't have none of that. So we just had terrestrial TV. On terrestrial TV, we had 4 channels, and then you know, I think in '95 they added in another channel on terrestrial TV, which is done through the aerial, and you know, we couldn't get access to that. So my you know, my dad used to get tapes for us. He used to get WWE taped for us, or just the pay-per-views. So no Raw, like there's no WCW, not on the terrestrial TV. So yeah, we used to get like tapes delivered to us. So that's how I kept up with all the pay-per-views. And then with cable, some people had like a thing, you know, they had cable and on so they could watch some WCW because WCW over here came on after Cartoon Network. So when Cartoon Network turned to TNT, that's when WCW would be, you know, would be on the cable box. So it was like it was so hard to, you know, to watch it. And then, you know, we didn't even know that wrestling was coming here. You know, we didn't even know WWE was coming here, even though it was maybe once a year, you know, filming special shows like UK Rampage and things like that. And then as time comes on, they had like Insurrection. And then as you get older, you realize actually they're coming here probably, you know, twice a year in April and then in November. And then you start to, you know, you're adult and now you can kind of go to these shows, you know. And then once that starts, you know, you're already a fan. And then you get engaged with this. You can actually go to an actual wrestling show and it sparks, you know, sparks you a bit more to even realize there's local shows. So we didn't even know for us over here, we just think wrestling is just WWE and WCW. Like that's it. You don't think about wrestling locally. You don't think there's any kind of promotion other than WWE or WCW. And then you start realizing actually there's a load of local promotions. So now you're an adult and you can just kind of go down the road and there's wrestling just, you know, just down the road. So if you want to get your wrestling fix, you want to get your kids kind of into watching wrestling, you can just take them down down the road to your local community center. You know, let them watch wrestling. You know, someone wrestle. They will get occasionally in some former TNA guys, some former WWE guys to wrestle, and you get your little fix that way before you know WWE comes to town.
Yeah, because I mean, what was it? After I started talking to you guys regularly, like you, Cookie, Darren, and all, you know, that's when Progress started popping up on my radar, and I catch a couple shows here and there. I mostly keep up with them through Twitter, but man, Progress and ICW are probably two of my favorite things. I got to say, probably my two favorite promotions I've seen that come out of there, and I'm definitely showing my old man age because here in the U.S., when Triller, what used to be Fight TV, now Triller, first started, they used to have ICW fight nights on there. So I was watching that stuff I was watching that and seeing UK guys long before they were getting it put on UK tournaments or NXT UK and all. Like I was seeing Wolfgang going and doing swantons and all. Like, damn, that dude can hit one way too good for a guy his size. Or seeing like Kaylee Ray or Grado and all.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's awesome though, you know. But like, so this is going to sound a little weird asking, but like, obviously, everyone typically makes the jokes about British food not always necessarily being good. Where's your stand on that as far as like on that? Because I know that's like a big culture difference. Some people say, oh, yeah, you know, well, Americans, they just deep fry everything and cover it with lard and such. And, you know, trust me, I know a couple people that would if they could.
Yeah, I suppose food is definitely a massive difference. I think, you know, in America, you can just by the ingredients itself, like you can see the difference. A lot of stuff that gets put into American food is banned here. So that's why, for instance, your Lucky Charms looks different to our Lucky Charms. Your Fruit Loops looks definitely different to our Fruit Loops. They taste different for one. And I remember when I went to America, and you know, instantly the first thing that you realize is different is you know, fast food. So like McDonald's, you know, our you know, our, I suppose, large is like your guys small. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
crazy, crazy. And yeah, I think there's a lot to kind of say about what gets passed in terms of you know, what some American factories and stuff and producers like put into their food, to the fact that, you know, a lot of what is getting put into the food in America is banned across Europe. Like they won't even put it in, you know, in food. And that kind of, you know, says a lot. But I think one of the other differences, though, which links to food, is I think it's just how Americans, I suppose, don't realize how much we know about American culture, or how much we've been involved in American culture since we were kids, and not, I suppose, not realizing, for instance, that, you know, a lot of the channels that you guys watch or grew up watching, we also kind of grew up watching the same thing. So we know, we have a lot more insight into America, I think, that than Americans have insight into the UK, which is only probably starting to kind of get a lot bigger through music, you know, through sport, and things, you know, and things like that.
Yeah, because growing up, man, I'm not gonna lie, my only way of knowing stuff from the UK was every night was seeing some BBC shows on PBS, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Doctor Who, and every now and then they would show random shows like Count Duckula and all. There you go. That's showing old age right there again.
And this is what I mean. Like, but for us, you know, we're coming home from school, and we have our kids shows, and on our kids shows, you know, we're watching everything. You know, you guys are watching pretty much like all the same shows. Obviously, we would have UK specific, you know, kids programs, but you know, your Clarissas and your Blossoms and your you know, cartoons like Jason the Wood Warriors and Gummy Bears, and we're watching exactly the same stuff. You guys may be ahead, but what happens is, I think, yours gets shown as it gets released, and then we get like seasons. So it's just like, it's every day, every day, every day, every day, like season. It's being shown, and then it's like, okay, season's done. Then the new season's starting in 2 weeks' time. You know what I mean? Because they've got it all
Right.
just kind of, you know, shown. And it
Yeah, so you guys had basically were binge watching before binge watching was a thing.
exactly, but that was the best thing about it, is that when a season finishes, they've got all these other seasons of other shows in the can ready just to kind of go. So say, okay, so a show like, okay, so like Spider-Man, okay. So Spider-Man was shown, so the animated one, that was shown in the 90s. So that, you know, when that first season finished, they're good to go with Incredible Hulk straight away. Bam. Okay, we can just push this one, and then we can push like, they never showed Iron Man on TV, but they showed like Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk. They showed like Batman animated series, and then you would have all these other kind of shows. And but
You
because
guys get X-Men?
yeah, we got X-Men. Yeah, we got
All
X-Men.
right.
Like, it's just good to go because we're behind you guys, and you guys, you know, the season, your guys is being shown as it's kind of being released, and it's just there ready for us to go. And it's just like, it was the best way growing up, because we just had all of these shows, you know, back to back to back to back, and it was just a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like all of that stuff. It was just amazing, and that all come from, you know, America. But it wasn't just the cartoons though. It was TV, you know, TV shows as well that you guys would, you know, would watch, like Dallas and all that kind of stuff as well. You know, and then as you got older, maybe shows like, you know, the OC and the Hills and all that kind of stuff. Like, we get everything. So where a lot of some of our culture definitely comes from American culture that we see on TV. And that's the weirdest thing. So when a lot of Brits go to America, especially some of us, kind of urban Brits who, yeah, a lot of us urban Brits that kind of come over, like we're down with the culture. Like we kind of know a lot of American culture because we just grew up with it on TV. You're watching Saved by the Bell and you're watching all those other things, and it's like, you know. But I must say though, and just correct me on this, right? Is that for us, when we're watching those shows, we think that's America. And we know it's not America. That's not what it's like in schools and things like that. Am I right?
No, 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 no. It's far from it. And I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually going to ask you about like the UK based shows that wind up eventually coming over here to US and I'll use Doctor Who as an example because that's probably the most popular show that bounces back and forth. But like, have you ever seen like anything that's on there? You're like, that is nowhere near like what it is in real life. And I feel sorry for whatever Yank sees that and thinks, yeah, that's really on how things go here in the UK.
Yeah, I think from what I believe, speaking to a lot of American, friends and stuff, is that you guys are pretty much deprived from what we're actually like, or what our culture is actually like on a day-to-day basis. Not just us, but I think a lot of the world. And I think that's partly because of what's being shown on the news. America's so big, so they cover quite a lot. So I think there's like, yeah, maybe through lack of that education in schools around about other countries and things like that. But yeah, I think one of the things is like you tend to think that we all tend to know each other. Like, so if there's a British celebrity, kind of think that we would kind of just know who they were, or have you met so and so, and and just like that. And whenever anyone's asking that question, I'm like, well, have you met Drake? You know what I mean? Or have you met, like, you know what I mean? It's like it's the same. It's the
Yeah,
same. You know what I mean?
dude,
It's like,
I got that after I moved from Philadelphia to the town I'm in now. And people would ask, where are you from? Say I'm from Philly. Oh, so did you ever do the Rocky thing? Oh, for God's sake, don't make me punch you because not all of us do the Rocky thing.
yeah, yeah. I think as well, what tends to get highlighted is like that UK is like posh. Now I don't sound posh, do I? You know what I
No,
mean? And that's
no.
again, I live in a in an urban part of the UK, and obviously again grew up in in black culture and stuff, and growing up being a Rastafarian as well, and which adds a whole nother whole nother thing to it. So I don't sound like I'm from I mean, I don't know if you'll be able to tell the different kind of accents that the UK has. There's loads, but I think they're, yeah, kind of depicted like where everyone's posh, and that's just definitely not. And it's even more not shown when things are depicted like, obviously, like your Bridgertons and things like that, but even other shows which doesn't tend to show what our school system is actually like. We don't all kind of wear blazers and ties and stuff like that in schools. Like we do have school uniform, but it's like, I think that there's so much that America can be shown about, not just us but other countries as well, so you can kind of get a real feel. Because I feel like a lot of Americans that I speak to, obviously I don't want to generalize, but a lot of Americans that I speak to that have come over here, it's such a culture shock. It's such a culture shock because you've not been, I suppose, anywhere immersed into our culture like we have with yours, in terms of growing up and seeing things and understanding things. Like stuff that happens in America comes on our news like every day. Like every day, if something happens in Philly, like that's coming on our news. You know what I mean? But if something happens where I live in Bristol, that ain't going on your news.
Yeah, not unless it's like some major catastrophe or some major global thing. And, and I constantly, I've made that argument before because I got in trouble back when I was in college making that argument, saying that, the news isn't really news. The news is just as much sports entertainment as wrestling is because
Mm.
they're just talking about the big highlight talking point saying, oh, a bombing occurred. Okay, well, can you give me details about what happened? Well, all we know is that something went exploded. Okay, then what? And then you get these figureheads talking and talking about what they think was right and wrong and how they could have fixed it. And you never hear anyone actually, you hear people do more politicking talking about the problem as opposed to saying, here was the problem.
Yeah. Okay.
And I kind of get what you're saying about with like the different areas and the cultures and the accents and all, because you know do you know the kind of music I've listened to? I listened to punk for forever, and probably one of my favorite bands hands down has always been the Clash. And yeah, I know that sounds typecasting, but the Clash, I always made this argument before. The difference between the Clash and the Sex Pistols. The Clash would do a song saying, here's a problem, here's an idea on how to fix it. The Sex Pistols would say, here's a problem, fuck you. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. No, not at all. Not at all. It's funny you mention music, because I think let me just state something, right? We love America, right? Because America shaped our childhood in such a way, right? Without that influence, there's no 90s kids for us in the UK. Not in the same way. Like not in the same way. When you use the term like being a 90s kid, America has helped shape that for us in the UK. So when we go to America for the first time, this is something I want to ask you in terms of what it's like for an American. But for us to go to America for the first time, it's such a big deal because we've grown up watching it, seeing it, and it feels like when you're there, you feel like you're in the movies or something. It's the weirdest thing. But for Americans, what is it like? What for anyone you kind of spoken to, what is it like for an American to actually like leave America and go, and not just go just to Canada, but like actually leave and go abroad? Because I know obviously a lot of Americans, they just travel in and around America because it's so huge, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, man. And my son, he did a vacation with his mom's family in Florida a few years ago. They went to Disney World, and he talked about the huge differences between Pennsylvania and Florida. And I was like, Bud, when I was younger than you, I lived in Florida for about a year. You did? Yeah, I was about an hour outside of Miami. Oh my God. Or not Miami, it was Orlando. And he was just like, oh my God. So what was it like? And when I told him we lived down there and it was during tropical storm season, and for anyone in Florida that's listening, you guys know what I'm getting at. You could almost set your watch to when it would start to rain. And he was like, we never had that. Well, you weren't there during tropical storm season. Count yourself lucky. But there were days where the weather would be like where it would feel like 900 degrees in the shade, with even if there was air moving around, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah. And what was it? I, when my brother was in the Marines, I saw him in South Carolina when he graduated. I went and I visited him a couple times when he was stationed in North Carolina. So I got to experience the two different Carolina weathers firsthand. And man, you want to talk about muggy. It can get muggy and that nasty kind of swamp heat.
It's crazy, man, because like over here,
Yeah.
it's like it's such a like, oh, obviously I think it gets depicted of it being like rainy all the time. It does rain, yeah, and it does rain a lot here, but for us it's like a toss up, isn't it? It's like you either have what we have, or we have what you guys have over there with the occasional earthquake or hurricane or tornado and stuff. Like what I don't know what it's like in Pennsylvania in terms of weather, how drastic the weather can get. Do you guys get like hurricanes and tornadoes and stuff where you guys are, or are you at a point of America where it doesn't have that kind of adverse weather?
Well, Pennsylvania, it depends because where I'm at in Pennsylvania, in Erie, I don't know if you've ever seen what the shape of Pennsylvania looks like. but the best way to kind of describe it, think of it kind of like a little Lego brick with a chimney on top.
Mhm.
Erie is right at that chimney, and there's excuse me, and there's Lake Erie right next to it. Every night we had one hurricane warning since I've lived up here, and that was it. Other than that, we're in the snow belt, so we get serious, massive cold. Where there were times where it would be colder than what it was in the Arctic.
Wow.
Yeah, so it'd just be like, geez, it would get bad like that, where you would want to contemplate and be like, why do I live here again? Why do I live here again? And then you hear someone out in Albuquerque wound up having a snake crawl up through their toilet and like, yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm happy where the air, I'll be good where the air hurts my face.
You guys have that as well, where you mentioned the snakes and stuff like that. We don't, I think the worst kind of thing we have kind of flying around is just bees, I suppose. Like, there's like, you know what I mean? You guys have, it's like, it's one extreme to another, I think, for you guys, especially when it comes to the weather, because
Yeah.
pretty random. Like, yeah, when it's summer, it's meant to be summer, but we'll get some rain in summer. Sometimes in spring, we might get some snow randomly, over here. But our weather in terms of temperature kind of hits the mark on where it's meant to be, quite mild. But with kind of climate change and stuff, when it's sunny, it like we're starting to get like heat waves over here, which is just normal, I think, for you guys over there. But for us, when a heat wave comes, it's like, whoa, okay, it's
Yeah.
35, 35 degrees and degrees Celsius, and it's like, wow, this is baking, you know what I mean? But for you guys, it's just like some people in America, that's your normal weather, you know what I mean? Like it's just normal. I don't know what the Fahrenheit is for you guys for the difference in terms of us being 35 degrees centigrade to Celsius, sorry, to you guys in Fahrenheit. But I believe it's probably in the 50s maybe.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
horrible with doing unit conversions. I failed that part in math class many times.
exactly the same, man.
Yeah. Again, breaking autistic stereotypes. Not all of us are like Rain Man. Dude, I say that every time somebody looks at me like, you're autistic? Yes, I am. And no, I'm not like Rain Man.
You keep mentioning Erie, where you're from. There was a show that they showed over here called Erie, Indiana. Um,
That's Indiana State.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I get that because I get asked that a lot. I got asked that a couple times from some people. Like, so you're in Erie? Yeah, Erie, not Erie, Indiana. That's in the state, Indiana. We're just, I'm in PA. There was a big, huge war here at the lake. So yeah, that's a history lesson for you folks. I'm not here to do that. So Kenny, man, I'm glad. I thank you for taking the time to be on here today, man. Since I started doing this show, gratitude and appreciation have really become a major thing for me because you could be literally doing anything else in the world, but you chose to sit down and talk with me for a good bit. Love to have you back on sometime. You're always welcome to come on whenever. For those who don't know where to find you on the socials, feel free to give a shout on where to find you at.
On Twitter or X, you can find me at Kinny Killer. And on Instagram, it's at kin_chin_killer.
Cool, man. So if you got anything else you want to give a quick shout out or a plug for, man, you're more than welcome to. The floor is yours.
Yeah, man. Just yeah. Shout out to you. You're still going strong with Vicious Rants. Going real, real strong. And yeah, I'm glad that you've continued to do what you're doing and giving people, the opportunity to talk wrestling and talk other stuff as well. So well done to you. Want to give a shout out to all my seg heads out there who followed me and Shugs and helped us to kind of become what we became. And because of the show, we made great friends like you, and others. Yeah, I'm thankful because, we've been, friends for a number of years now, and, we've never got to meet. And luckily for me, for some of the seg heads, especially in America, I've managed to meet during WrestleMania when I went to WrestleMania for Kofi Mania that year. So I'm just thankful for all the people that we connected with over those years. Yeah. So thanks for having me on, and yeah, anytime, man, just give me a shout and I'll be there.
No problem, man. Thanks again for coming on, folks. This was Vicious Rants. I am Tim Vicious. This was Kenny Killer. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this. Hope y'all